Then we've got South Africa, a very unique set in terms of stress. There was a Bloomberg study looking at 74 nations, the industrialized nations of the world principally. They took 7 equally weighted variables, extrapolated information from the CIA, United Nations, World Health Organization, looking at which nation is the most stressed. And South Africa's number 2. The second most stressed nation on the planet. So we have these external factors that make our lives a little bit more challenging. If we start deep diving, and we take information taken from Liberty, Momentum, ProfMed, we're seeing that 11% of significant issues with health are stress-related. 11%. But that is in normal fields. If you're in law, in welfare, that's 33, 34%. We know that 30% of professionals are not managing their stress. What's become a major concern in recent years is the fact that critical illness claims, people claiming for dreaded diseases and chronic diseases, almost 1 in 2 on people under 50, diseases that are normally experienced in people over 70. And then we've got the crisis with retrenchment, unemployment, 6.2 million people or more. But of everything I've talked about now, that's nothing. That's not the real threat that we're confronted with. That's not the real crisis we're confronted with. The real crisis in professional organizations is this: depression. South Africa's official depression rate is almost 13%. 1 in 8 people in this room are currently sitting with a diagnosis of depression. If you look at stats from around the world, depression in the US, 7.2%, the UK around 7%, global average where you're taking unindustrialized nations, 4.4%. We are sitting at the top of depression. But there's an X factor, because that is current diagnosis of depression. It doesn't take into account previous diagnosis of depression and in remission or stable. Because in South Africa, we're looking at 1 in 4, 25, 26% of our population have been previously diagnosed with depression. 1 in 4 people in your organization or in the organization you work for. The issue with depression is not that you're experiencing a low day or you're a little bit less productive that day. Depression induces presenteeism, coming to work disengaged, disconnected, disinterested, uninvolved. There was an incredible study that was published in 2016. Took 8 remote or different regions of the world, the Americas, Canada, and the US, South Africa, some of the Asian countries, and looked at the implications, the financial burden of depression on organizations and on countries. What is stress-induced depression and presenteeism costing you, costing your organization? That was the question they were looking to answer. And fortunately for me, South Africa is one of those 8 countries evaluated. What the study found was that, on average, the person who comes to work in a state of presenteeism, principally through stress-induced depression or anxiety, will be costing the organization 87,000 Rand a year. Now that's in certain fields. If I'm in law, times that by 100. That is the cost of presenteeism on the organization. They say collectively, the collective cost of presenteeism on the South African economy, according to researchers at Stellenbosch University, is over 200 billion Rand a year. And a lot of these factors can be mitigated. A lot of these drivers can be addressed. But South Africa is not the only country that's hit by stress. The US at the moment, stress is directly costing the US economy $300 billion a year. In the UK, 12.5 million working days are lost every single year because of stress-related health issues. Australia, I spent 5 weeks in Australia. Amazing, everything works. Stress costing the Australian economy 14.2 billion Australian dollars. South Africa, in dollar terms, we're looking at $133 million. And then healthcare in Europe, $20 billion every single year on stress-related health issues with no signs of slowing down. This is the beginning. But it's not surprising because stress induces changes in our biology. What happens when you get stressed? We release stress hormones. And in the short term, stress hormones are unbelievable. They promote success because they integrate 4 major systems of the body: cardiovascular system, immune system, nervous system, hormonal system, come together to help us cope, adapt, survive, change, be agile. Stress is amazing in short bursts. But when we have cortisol in the system for long periods of time, which has now become the issue, the stress hormone cortisol, it creates this emotional profile: antisocial, depressed, aggressive outbursts, fearful, anxious, poor memory, poor attention, distracted, loss of goal orientation. That is the face of the stress hormone cortisol. It's not real. It's hormonally mediated. And this is the trigger in presenteeism. But I'm going to take it one step further. Because if you're in that state for long periods of time, your self-esteem collapses. You feel worthless. You start suffering from the imposter syndrome, where you don't believe you're skilled enough to be in the job that you're in. It's not real. Stress. Stress hormones.